The next type of insights I want to show you are our lesson learned insights. So I'll navigate to our lesson learned insights here, and I'm going to go to our list view. And this is going to show me all the activity in the projects where Slate has found a lesson learned that's associated with that type of activity. So I'll click on this one here. This is an activity about installing brackets and a front soffit detail. And Slate has found in the library of lessons learned for this account that there's a lesson learned about siding and trim installation issues. So this is a lesson learned that's coming from historical data and is representing some type of issue that's happened in the past for people that working in this account. And we're now associating that with the activity in the schedule, letting the user know, hey, this happened in the past. Here's a description of some things that happened in the past and some preventative actions to prevent that from happening in the future. And so we go through and do that for all the activities in the schedule, and any activity where we have a lesson learned in our library, we'll associate that to the activity and then raise that as an insight to the user. And the way this is really helpful is that instead of needing to, at the beginning of the project, sit down and understand all of the lessons learned that might be relevant to your project, we link them to an activity and then we raise the insight at the right time. So if you think about a project, it could be a long project, 6 months, 12 months, maybe many years. You might get 6 months into the project and you might forget some of those lessons learned that you were supposed to pay attention to at the beginning of the project. With our tool, we'll notify you of that lesson learned before that activity starts at the right time. That might be 2-3 weeks before it starts, to be more timely and fit in with your workflow a bit more appropriately. Now, in order to get to this point where we have this lesson learned library, we'll work with our customer to build out a library for them. And we can do this in a number of ways. One of those ways is if you have an existing lesson learned library, we can just import that into our system and set it up. You may also have some best practices that we could draw on. We can bring those into our system and we can create lessons learned. But what we typically find ourselves doing is digging into the historical data from projects to generate lessons learned for customers. So one of the things we found in working with customers is a lot of times they haven't documented their lessons learned in a really well-structured way, if at all. If they have, it's typically living in some PowerPoints, some Excel spreadsheets, some Word documents, and it's not really in a type of format that can be utilized in a repeatable fashion. So what we can do is do deep historical analysis, use our generative AI tools to then generate lessons learned based on those. I'm going to click on the view source data here to give you a little idea of how that works. This is what we call our lineage view of lessons learned. On the left here is the lesson learned I was just showing you, that one about siding and trim installation issues. To get to this point where we had this lesson learned, we looked at 5 different projects, which are each of these dots here. These are each a project that was studied and historical analysis was completed on. And then we looked at all the forms in those projects. And what we found is amongst those 5 projects, all of these forms were dealing with the same type of issue, the same siding and trim installation issue. So we mined that historical data. We found what things happen frequently. We grouped those together. And then from there, we generate the lesson learned, creating an asset for our customers that they never had before. And this is where you end up. So you get a description and a preventative action that's been totally generated. It took no work from our customers to create this. It was all done with our Gen AI tools based on real historical data, giving customers a true objective library of lessons learned. So instead of trying to maybe sit down at the end of a project and write down some notes, and maybe everyone has a different perspective on why things didn't go the best ways in all circumstances, we take a really objective view, just study what actually happened, and then create a lesson learned for that, with the idea that if you understand the past, understand things that went wrong in the past, you can improve the future. And if things didn't go well in the past, it means they're probably going to be repeated in the future. But if we can give our users notification at the right time, within the context of the activities that are in their project about these things that happened in the past, then there's a good chance that we can prevent those happening in the future and take some intervention and prevent those from being mistakes that continue to happen, help reduce the cost from quality control issues and delays to the schedule from issues happening in projects. A few other features we have here is we can actually push this to Procore or any project management system that you want to set up in Slate. So if I hit push to Procore, what it's going to do, it's going to take me to Procore observations where I can create an observation and I can let my teammates know, hey, there's this lesson learned that's really relevant to our project. I think we should pay attention to it and we can track it as an observation. Another thing we can do is we can incorporate some of those templates that you may have set up in Procore or other systems. In this case, we're looking at inspection templates. So maybe you've gone through and created different inspection templates for things like concrete and framing and envelope systems. We can use those in two ways. One, we can use those to improve the preventative actions that we're giving our customers. So if you've already defined your internal best operating procedures, we can incorporate those into our preventative actions based on what you've already documented. And then we can allow the user to link to those. So if I click this link, it's going to take me to Procore and it's going to open up an inspection template for a building envelope inspection, which is the type of inspection you'd want to complete for this lesson learned. So the idea is to provide all of the intelligence to our users around things that happened in the past and how they can improve that in the future, and then give them a jumping off point to go into their project management system and track these things to make sure that we close them out, we don't keep repeating the same mistakes, and ultimately improve the bottom line for our projects by bringing quality issues way down for our projects. And all of this gets sent out in a weekly digest email to our customers. We'll send out our lessons learned insights as well as those scheduling insights that I was showing you early in a weekly email. It's kind of like a 2-week look ahead for your project, but instead of 2-week look ahead of just the activities that you have coming up, it's a 2-week look ahead of the insights related to the activities that you have coming up to give our users a chance to make some interventions and hopefully improve the outcome and performance of their projects.